I'm muted. How do I unmute? Yeah, it does. My microphone. Huh? No, I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
There we go. Now I can hear
There
you.
you go.
Perfect.
There you go. So you can hear me?
I can definitely hear you now, buddy.
Yeah.
Man. I'm glad you called me because I was
Can you
like,
get those alligators over there? Put the giraffe down. Get him down there. All right. Thanks. Oh.
I love it. I love it.
Man, I don't think you could have picked three better things to start with than you did. Those were
They were pretty good.
oh, they were good, really good.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad that I was really worried about. Well, I was well. You were on Sunday. I was still trying to get things scheduled. I uploaded John McCamish's. I had to finish it. In fact, I was going to bed, and Bobby Joe was like, "Do you have everything done?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I was looking through the schedule. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I didn't even produce John McCamish's video on 210.8, so I had to do that. I didn't get to bed till after midnight last night."
Oh my.
Yeah.
He's quite a guy.
John is good. Oh yeah, I tell you,
Well, and he's good with you. You guys play up for each other pretty good.
Yeah, he is. He is something else. He's definitely something else. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
I sat with him on panel 2. He represented IBEW a couple code cycles, a few code cycles, and I'll tell you the first debate, the first disagreement that we had. When you're discussing with somebody. Here comes Nihad. Hey, Nihad.
Hey, Nihad.
Hey, Robert. From Omaha.
Robert from Omaha.
Robert from Omaha.
What is your last name, right? Robert from Omaha.
Yeah. No, that's my AKA.
So,
yeah.
This is a question not from me, from my mom, when she was watching us last night, and she obviously did not understand most of what we said, but I guess she was watching. It's like, this is Robert from Omaha's house in the background? It's like, no, I don't think it's his house.
Oh.
It's like, no, it's not.
Mind, Nihad?
Yeah.
No, that's a virtual screen.
Yeah, that's what I told her, because she's like, "Oh, this looks like a nice house." Like, I don't think it's.
Yeah, no, I can't afford a house like this.
Well, I know what you're gonna afford, but it's just like I could tell because the green shirt was just kind of getting.
Yeah, you'll notice I got a little different shirt, an orange or a faded orange shirt. Still high vis. Vis. So.
Hey, you like the thumbs up? Look, I got the thumbs up.
I saw that.
Watch this. We got the confetti going on.
Can I do this and you get the thumbs up as well?
No, you can't. Only me, because I'm a special person.
I know you're special. I know. I never doubted.
There you go. Look at that.
Yeah, that's an Apple thing. It's an
Yeah,
Apple
Mihad,
thing.
did you get to see some of the videos already?
I watched. I didn't watch the first video because I don't waste my time with my video. I can watch myself. There's no way I can
Well,
watch
that's the
myself.
best one, Mihad.
It was the best one.
I can watch myself. It's pretty hard, and I'm not trying to be I know cocky or anything, but I remember back in those were the actors, like the big ones. Like I remember especially Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. It's like they can never watch themselves and they hated it, and I never understood it until I started doing this with Tom. It's like
Yeah.
no, I can watch myself. It's terrible. So I didn't watch the
Yeah.
first one. I watched. I was actually before I joined. I still watching the Dan Carnevale video, but I
Yeah.
watched the other two.
Oh yeah.
Then I was just started it maybe half hour ago. But I also
Yeah.
have to say you and John McCain did a great job going through the
Yeah.
210. Okay, to do it because you're thinking we should do this. You guys did it.
You know what? And it didn't dawn on me because he and I recorded that a while ago when he was in Pittsburgh, and it was like one of those moments where I'm like, hey, I brought my camera. Let's just set it up, and we walked down through all the ways through 210.8, and that's so. I think what you and I need to still do, Nihad, is here's two things. AFCIs would be good, but here's the other thing that John and I didn't do. All of the other areas in the code where there are GFCI requirements, like Article 555 and 680 around swimming pools.
I know there's 400 the horticultural. I can remember the article number 490 or something.
Yep, horticultural. There's 425 for electric vehicle charging. So
512 cannabis.
yeah, 512 on cannabis. So I think the other thing that we could do, which I think is even worth more than the AFCI discussion, doing a discussion around, oh man, we got Jerry O'Connor dialing in. Hey, Jerry. Are you there? I can't hear him.
Hey, Tom, I'm here.
Hey. I'm doing good. I don't know if you
Yeah,
you went to a black screen and then you sort of broke up at the end of your sentence. But I'm thinking, Nihad, that we go after all those other areas, and I think that would. And then how does that complement 210.8b? Right? That's the other aspect. Yeah, all the other than dwelling areas, and we could also hit 422 and have the discussion between Article 422 and 210.8d.
You know, on 210.8b, Tom, I had a question from a contractor who's doing a salsa manufacturing facility in Colorado. And the engineer had determined the place where they were cooking the salsa as a kitchen. Now, yeah, and your first response is, no, you got to go back to the definition of a kitchen.
Right.
Now they're cooking just as it's other than dwelling, and he was requiring GFCI protection for those receptacles, 100 amp 3-phase receptacles, for those baths and so forth, and then they cook the salsa, and then they pour it into jars on a conveyor and send it to another room. And so what I mentioned to him was the fact that 210.8 talks about receptacles, 100 amp 3-phase receptacles, but a 100 amp 3-phase disconnect. That's not a receptacle.
Oh, that's true.
Because a disconnect can be cord and plug, but it's not a receptacle. So they were about ready to acquiesce and get these 3,000 to 5,000. That's that GFCI thing I was talking to you about before.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So going into stuff like that, you guys stress that point on receptacles being protected, not the circuit, the receptacles. And you could either do that at the receptacle or at the breaker, whichever is readily accessible.
Yeah. No, you're right. I just sent Jerry a note to let him know that it didn't seem like he had a good connection. Yeah, and you know what I was going to go into? I was going to go to 210.8b. We added the, and other than dwelling units, and we just put it in dwelling units, those areas where you have food prep that they don't meet the definition of a kitchen, but then you're right, it has to be a receptacle for that application.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Wow,
think what we were thinking, I remember our discussions when we added this new requirement, we were thinking of the likes of like Starbucks and McDonald's and
yeah,
those people, they're preparing food, but they're not kitchen by definition, right? So just,
that's right.
So now here's a question for you and Nihad. The idea behind GFCI receptacles being protected is to provide GFCI protection. That kind of defeats the purpose to put a disconnect. Your goal is GFCI protection, right, for the equipment. Isn't that the goal for having that requirement? You're kind of, the electrons don't care. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's kind of like in the kitchen, the receptacle could be over 6 feet from the sink, but the refrigerator might be within. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So wasn't GFCI protection the goal? And by putting a disconnect, you've bypassed the goal.
Wow. So
Does that make sense?
that's interesting. But it's still an out. So we covered the. So here's what we did in 210.8a and b. We have the GFCI requirements are on the receptacle. So if you hardwire an appliance, that would be covered under 210.8d. So if it's a drinking, or if it's the tire inflation vending machines, if it's a wall-mounted oven, counter-mounted cooking unit, clothes dryer, microwave, those types of things, if you're hardwiring it to that disconnect, that would still be covered under 210.8d. But if it's not one of those items in that list, then yeah, you're right. It's not being GFCI protected.
So you changed the verbiage from 15 and 20 amp receptacles, got rid of that, and switched to the voltage coverage. 125 or 150 volts to ground, 50 amps to lead, so forth. Can we do something similar? Because the electrons don't know the difference between a disconnect or a GFCI receptacle or breaker. The goal behind the whole thing was safety from electric shock from those pieces of equipment.
Right.
And we've just, that looks like it's been used as a way around that GFCI requirement, and the whole idea behind GFCI requirement was the protection of people using that equipment.
Yeah.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is what I recall from our discussions in previous cycles. This was the reason that we added the list of specific appliances in 210.8d, right? Because A and B, the way they're written, they're just receptacles. And I think we had similar discussion. It's whether your appliance is hardwired or not, like Robert is saying.
That's right.
It's the same thing. Yeah, if it's hardwired.
I heard it before. I'm sure Tom heard it too. Some people say, no, I'm hardwiring my stove or my fridge, and I don't need GFCI protection. It doesn't matter how it's connected. It's whether it's hardwired or powered through a receptacle. If the appliance fails, and then it's a shock hazard. Doesn't matter how it's powered.
Well, one of the things I would bring up in inspecting is if you hardwired the stove, where's your disconnect to that piece of equipment? It's not within sight. It's not, you've just bypassed a disconnect. Cord and plug, you see what I'm saying? You're required to have a disconnect for a piece of equipment. We get away with a lot of that by having cord and plug connected. Now, if we hardwire it with no disconnect at all, that we can't really do that, because you have to have a disconnect for that piece of equipment, unless you have a 110, not 25 locking mechanism on your breaker that stays in place without the lock, which nobody does either, correct?
That's right. No, you're right. That's the challenge with the language. It
goes back to one comment that you made when you talk about and I know this because we talked about this many times before, when you talk about having all the brand circuits in your home, AFCI, GFCI protected, and this would make life easier. It's really hard to make
to have that whole main breaker, though, now if one thing goes, it all goes.
Yeah.
So if you had the different breakers and so forth, that would probably resolve that. But
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You know, the during our session, Nihad, I've never referred to it before this way, and I don't know what brought it to my head yesterday, or I think we recorded that yesterday, right?
Yes, we did.
I think so.
Mhm.
Yeah. I made a comment about the curve that we used when you have the defibrillation. You remember that one that has the red and the different colors?
Colored, yeah.
I referred to it as the damage curve for the human body.
I noticed that.
And
I
I
noticed
never,
that.
I've never said that
I heard it. I
before.
was like, this was cool. I was
that's
thinking,
perfect.
Yeah, and I've never referred to it that way before, and I was sitting up there this afternoon thinking about it because I was thinking, man, we have damage curves for motors, for transformers, for electrical distribution equipment, and then a damage curve for the human body is pretty freaking awesome. Oh, here we
Yeah.
got Jerry O'Connor is he was in. Let's see if we got him. He's
I don't know if
he's
I have
dark.
a better connection.
Hey, we can hear you. We can't see you.
that's a pretty face, Jerry.
We'd like to say you're looking good, Jerry, but we can't
Oh,
see you.
thank you.
Well,
We're
I'll
gonna
tell you,
assume you
here's
are.
Robert, I know Jerry very well, and this is the best he's looked in a long time.
I think you look
Well,
better
I
than
can understand. I would like to put my screen on black because whenever I'm on screen, it makes my hips look big. So rather be black.
I
I can see
love
my
that
picture on this. But I'm having issues.
I
with
can't see you.
what's a
Don't
log
listen to
in.
Tom. You look better in Charleston for sure. Don't listen to him. Last time we met, it was in Charleston, right?
Yeah, I can't see you, Jerry. So I'm not sure.
Neon orange doesn't match my eyes.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry. It just
No, we were just talking about the items today, and I made a reference, and I don't know what I don't know why I don't know what my issue was with when I said that, but it is the damage curve for the human body, and it's way over there to the left because it's in the milliamps. And if you think about a transformer damage curve is way over there to the right. A cable damage curve is way because they can take so much more current.
Mhm.
But the body is so sensitive because of the heart and the defib and all that stuff. Our damage curves are way down there in the milliamps.
So Tom, here's a thought for you guys. Did you know that the human body is designed through a chemical reaction to generate 1/1,000,000th of an amp of current to run your nervous system? 1/1,000,000th of an amp to run your nervous system. Now think about that. 1 milliamp is 1,000 times more current than your body is capable of using or withstanding. And GFCI are set to trip between 4 and 6. That's 4 to 6,000 times more current than the body uses to run the nervous system. That's a pretty profound thought.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know about that, but back on your comment, I liked it, and it's interesting that because I never heard you mention this. Like we presented on GFCIs a few times before, and we had discussions during code meetings, IEEE meetings, whatever other meetings, right? And this was the first time I ever heard you using this analogy, but I thought it was right on.
Yeah.
You got to patent that phrase, Tom, quickly.
Yeah. Well, you know what I can do? It would be interesting to just do a session on that, on different damage curves for equipment. Transformer damage curves are there's a lot about like based upon the size of the transformer, whether it's a gas or liquid cooled and dry type and all that. On motor damage, you have the motor starting curve, but there is a motor damage curve as well. You got to really look for it, and it's usually available only on the very, very large motors. There's also conductor damage curves, right? We have that ICEA curve. So it would be interesting to go down through and do a session just on damage curves and throw in the human body because we do have a damage curve. And just like in Transformers and everything else, and you brought this up, Nihad, the makeup of the body, the whether or not you have a heart condition and all that stuff makes a difference.
Well, and then somewhere in there, Tom gives a story of how Daziel, and I believe that's how you pronounce it, how he arrived at that by having people hold a Variac as part of the course.
Oh yeah, and I
power up.
Yeah, that was beer money for college students.
Yeah.
You know, Tom, I think both of us were getting creative yesterday when we were recording, because
we were.
I don't recall how I ever referred to time as exposure time, because I know you liked it and you made a comment.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think I ever used that word. It was like, when we're talking, it's like, I don't know, it just hit me. It's exposure time. About time, the duration for the current going through the body, which kind of made me think we should go back to our paper that we wrote back in. Change the terminology, because it's, I think it's more concise, exposure time. So yeah, I guess you and I were not creative yesterday somehow.
We did.
Freewheeling, Nihad. Freewheeling.
We were freewheeling. And you know what the other thing was? I was drinking Puppy Paul's coffee.
Yeah.
That's why. So we
Is that
have
part of your PPE that's required, by the way?
That's exactly right. So I'll put that in the chat. I'm going to put this in the chat if I can. But Bobby Joe, if you put 2 labs in whenever you purchase anything from this, you get a 10% discount. So Bobby Joe gets their coffee. And look at this. Wait, let me shut this off. Let me shut that off. Let me get rid of this guy. I'm going to remove the source. Look at this.
There you go.
I'm drinking Chocolate Lab. Yes, Chocolate Lab.
Now, is that chocolate coffee or a chocolate lab?
It's just it's a ground coffee medium roast. So it's just regular coffee. It doesn't have a chocolate flavor to it. This is a French roast. Pitbull. Okay. That's a French roast. And this one, oh, look at this. Rottweiler. That's a medium dark roast. I'm telling you.
That'll go down and rip your roots right out.
Absolutely right.
Do they ship outside of the U.S. or just U.S.?
You know what? I don't know. They probably ship outside of the U.S. I don't see why they wouldn't.
Like, I'm not a big coffee drinker, as you know. I'm more of a tea drinker.
Oh, they have tea too. They have really good tea. I drink all the tea. I gotta tell Bobby Joe to order more, but they have different flavors, and they have like a chamomile that, oh my gosh, it is just so flavorful. But it's got like, you can buy it like open, where you it's in a bag where you go in with a little scoop, you know. Oh, it's really good. Oh, really good.
So Tom, the first guy that you had was Brad from Iris.
Oh yes.
What an astounding! That is just mind blowing, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it was a good discussion. I've known Brad for a long time, and he's working for Iris now, and he's probably forgotten about that stuff, more about that stuff than I know. But what was really cool was just the whole discussion about the material. I always thought that you just put standard plexiglass in and throw it in there, but it's a special material, because he said if you go and just buy plexiglass and you try to look through it with an iris scan, it's not going to get through that that material. And then they had the samples there, so we sandwich it. We have it up in our experience center. They put it in all kinds of equipment. They put it in the busway, which I thought was kind of cool. It's just a small window, but that's something. It's not code required, but man, gets you out of the arc flash boundary. It's so easy to do with thermography.
Labels that you put on the bus bar, and those tabs are those things you put on the wires that would turn a different color at a certain heat. That was what I thought was absolutely fantastic, because you don't need to be anywhere near it. You can just look through the window and see.
These little things, right?
Yeah.
So and look how small this one is. This is just a tiny. I mean, you could put these on conductors, on any of the conductors. When it hits a certain temperature level, it turns pink, and then, like you said, they have these dots.
Yeah,
they're basically dots that you put on the outside of, say, a panel of a breaker, and this was the label that we were talking about.
Yeah.
That is just absolutely awesome.
Now, once that's repaired, Tom, do you have to do a different label, or will it go back to the color it was?
No.
Once put a new label on it or a new.
Yeah. Once it turns, because here's my thought on that, Robert. Once it turns red, you're going to have to do some work to fix it or do something, because it should never get red.
Yep.
That's
true.
There was the and you know what? This is another funny one, because I had current limiters. Okay, a current limiter for a cable limiter. Do you know what a cable?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So a cable limiter is a fuse. Basically, it has an element inside, and it opens when you get to the short circuit only. So we had them installed, and I did a video, which I still have. I've got the footage. I have not done all the editing. This was, years ago. I videoed them installing those, and what you do is you put them over the conductor and you crimp them. Okay. So the guy who was installing it asked me a question, and I was like, it was one of those moments, Robert, where you hear the question and you go, wow, I don't know. But he says, well, when this fuse opens, he says, if I have to put a new one on, how do the conductor is shorter, because the only way to get the fuse off, or that limiter, is to cut it off. And I was sitting there thinking, oh man, how do I do that? Right?
You leave a service loop.
Well, no, here's the issue. That's a short circuit protection. If that limiter actually opens on that conductor, you don't want to put it back in service. You're going to
turn a breaker back on. You don't want to do that.
Right.
But by the same token, now your conductor is short. You're going to replace it. There's no question. What do you do? So then either you have a service loop. Somebody had the forethought to do that because of that, or you don't want to pull a whole new conductor. And what are you going to do with a splice and that sort of thing? So
the reason, utilities will use those types of devices. What they'll do is they have multiple conductors per phase. And they know if I lose one or two, I'm still good, because I've got all of the other ones that can handle the ampacity. So there is no intention of replacing any of those conductors when that limiter goes, because that current has to have been huge. If it went because there's a problem in that conductor. And so there is no replacing. It's like if those limiters go, you're replacing conductors. Period.
Yeah, for utility. But what about on PV systems where you're allowed to go so far in with a cable limiter? The 16 feet or whatever.
Yeah, but if you
conductor, if something like that happens, right?
If you've ever seen the curve, the trip curve, or the time current characteristic curve, they don't do it in amps. They do it for protection of the conductor. It is way up there.
Oh, is it?
Yes. So if you get a current that high, it's because that cable faulted, and you're going to need to replace it anyway.
Okay.
That's,
I guess
yeah.
That was designed intentionally to force you to just replace the cable.
Yeah. So that's the thing is if you put another device, like say a circuit breaker on that, and you were able to take it out on lower overloads, but even a circuit breaker at those high fault currents, as high as that limiter would go, you would probably have even more damage, because the instantaneous of that breaker is going to take time to open, much more time than the fuse. So you would probably have more damage on that conductor and have to replace more if you didn't have the limiter. And the reason the utilities use it is because they don't have an overcurrent device at the source.
Yeah. So one of the things that I bring out in some of my classes, tell me if I'm incorrect in doing this. When you have a high fault current on a breaker, manufacturer says that that's good for one, actually two, but one happened at the factory for a test. You're going to overload, you can reset it, but a fault current, you really need to replace the breaker. Okay, but nobody ever does that. And they worry about the breaker. My question is, the cable saw the same fault current, and nobody worries about the cable insulation
Yeah.
seeing that amount of heat, right?
Yeah.
And if that breaker hasn't been maintained, like a multi-case circuit breaker is supposed to open in half a cycle, right? What if
Yep.
it took 3, 4, 5 cycles to open, and that heat, Soares' book on grounding will give you that calculation to see the damage curve on the conductor. But nobody thinks anything about the insulation on that cable, whether it's in raceway or whatever, and it has done something to break down the integrity of that cable of some sort because it damaged the breaker.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, yeah, yeah. So there's a lot to think about when you have a fault on the system. You've obviously got to think about the breaker. And what I typically tell people when it comes to a circuit breaker, it's hard to tell how much fault current, right? So what I always say is, look, if you take it out of service and perform NEMA AB4, the NEMA AB4 criteria, you can look at the impedance of the contacts, you can do some basic tests, and look at the structure itself, right? The breaker. The other thing, you're right, I think the conductor is something to look at, but all of the terminations. Because if you think about it, under those short circuit conditions, you have a lug holding a conductor all the ways down in that line. So when you pull, or if you have that whipping or whatever going on, you should be thinking about all of those terminations. So which is another reason for the iris discussion with Brad Nana, is to do your thermography. That's going to give you that indication that, hey, I had a fault. My termination for XYZ is not like it was before, and it needs to be addressed and maybe cleaned up, re-terminated, right? Because you can't just retorque it. You have to take the conductor out, cut it, strip it, put it back in again.
Well, and that's just on the breaker itself. But to your point, what about the terminations on the disconnect? At the other
everywhere,
end, a wire has 2 ends, right? And so
that's exactly
there's a little more resistance, but you need to know the fault current available first, and then calculate it from there.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right.
And take a Megger, for example, on the insulation quickly, just to get a reading of some sort, because you don't know how many cycles it took to clear, right?
Yeah, so a Megger will help you with the insulation of your conductors and all that.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
But there's also the terminations. That's the thing I think that worries me the most, is that did I pull any of those conductors? Did I weaken any of those terminations?
I always ask the class if there's X amount of fault current available, in a circuit, how much of that fault current is going to be seen by anything connected to that? And the answer is every amp available.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. And we usually calculate the maximum, which there's a lot of conservative aspects to it, because we don't throw impedance of the bus work that's in panel boards, the breakers, and things like that. But so today we had Nihad kicked us off. Then we had
Brad.
We had Brad Nana, and then we had me and I thought me and John and I's discussion was good because it complemented the discussion with Nihad, just on shock protection and whatnot. But tomorrow, 2 sessions in the afternoon, with Vince Barlow. I talked to him this morning a little bit too. Hopefully he's moving from one house to another, but he's going to try to dial in tomorrow night as well. But his session, I enjoyed his session because he's introducing a totally different it's something we don't normally talk about. The whole emotional intelligence aspect of being, just an individual is something we don't talk about when it comes to electrical safety. It's just not a part of our vocabulary yet. 70E added informative Annex Q, that speaks to it. And we sometimes talk about, I don't know, Robert, you do a lot of 70E training. I've used the phrase, you have to have your head in the game. And what I mean by that is, if you show up on a job site and you're doing, say, justified energized work, or even, it doesn't really matter whether it's justified energized work or not, whatever it is that you're doing, if you're thinking about or worried about something, or thinking about an argument, thinking about a bill you have to pay, or the car broke down, or, like I'm trying to help.
Maybe you're not feeling well that day.
Yeah, then that can distract you. It could be even just driving to work, right? It doesn't have to be on a job site, because when your head's not in the game, if you let other things bother you, that can be ungood.
In the May issue of, I don't know if it was IAEI or Electrical Contractor, Jim Dollard had an article talking about attention span and so forth.
Yeah.
And he said one of the things that he mentioned there, which I really hope it's okay to plagiarize, is he goes, we all make risk assessments every minute of our life. For example, you might be driving down the road and get a phone call. In a split second, you've made a risk assessment to answer that call, knowing you shouldn't, but you did. And you made the assumption that you've done this before, so nothing's going to happen to you. And it's not if something's going to happen, it's when. Well, that same thing plays out, unfortunately, with working with electrical. We make those assumptions without even thinking about it. It's not going to happen to us type of thing. But it kind of really hit me, that simple illustration about we're the primary cause of the incidents that happen, right? 95% is human error, and it gives you pause to think.
Oh, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
A couple of years ago, I don't know, Tom, if you remember this, but I co-authored the paper with, I think you would remember it now, Mike Doherty and I. This was when you chaired electric safety workshop. It was on human performance. And I remember this because it was back in 2022. So we're just out of
COVID.
2021. I think it was 2022. 2022. So just out of COVID, and I guess it was. I couldn't travel because I guess it was the Omicron wave, so I couldn't travel. Mike Doherty is Canadian as well, so both of us couldn't travel. But I was in Egypt at the time. I didn't know the joke. I dialed in remotely. Tom was the chair of the conference, which is unfortunate. The one time that he chaired the ESW. But then I called in, and one of my friends told me that my head was so big, the projector, as a printer just sitting so close to the computer. There was just like a running joke. But this paper that Mike Doherty and I presented and ended up being published in the Industry Application magazine was on human performance. So we're just talking about those things. I'm interested in the session tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll be able to watch it before we join in the evening. But it's an important. People just do things that sometimes just have something on your mind or something in it with the family, and then just blocks your judgment.
Yeah, I tell you, he wrote a good book on becoming unshakable and on emotional intelligence, and he works with like executives. He doesn't work in the electrical safety world. He works with executives and helping them grow their career by through understanding their own emotions and understanding how he says he works with a lot of technical people because they tend to he goes like engineers like you and me and you too, Robert. Doesn't matter if you're electrical engineer or not. Technical people have the tendency to have lesser patience and just have like this is the facts, this is what it is, and and there's this inability to read the room, so to speak. And so he puts the self-awareness into categories. He talks about, he puts it like he has a process where you answer questions for yourself, and you go through this process to help you understand how you react under certain situations, under certain conditions. And then once you understand that, remember, the first step in healing is to recognize you have the problem, right? So he has this process of digging through yourself, and he has a self-awareness, self-expression, interpersonal, decision-making, stress management. So in each of these categories, he sort of breaks it down, and what he'll do is he'll like ask different questions. He'll say, okay, with self-regard, how do you have high self-regard or low self-regard? And he'll give you examples of what is high and what is low. And sometimes it's not good to be high in one of these categories, right? Because then you might have somebody who is very arrogant, and he might be very high in one or two of these categories. And you go, look, you're coming off as arrogant. So when you come off as arrogant, it's hard to influence, or it's hard to communicate with another person, because they're immediately turned off by the arrogance in how you approach something. So he teaches them to recognize that as an issue, and then how do you correct it? Well, he was giving me examples one day, we were talking, and I was like, man, I can just see this in an electrical safety discussion when you get on a job site and you have the individual, like there's Dan Carnevale mentioned it today, where he had the gentleman who wanted them to turn the breaker on. And the electrician said, no, I can't do that. And he said no, and he stood his ground, and he did what he was supposed to do, found out why the breaker tripped in the first place, right? But it's hard to do that. If you don't have a lot of self-confidence and self-awareness, it's easier to just cave and say, okay, I'll do it. And then when something bad happens, there's always the, I knew I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And then you have to ask your question, well, why did you just do it? Why did you break all of the training that you've known throughout your entire life and everything that you've done, and in that one split second, you made the wrong decision when it counted the most?
So you think with your emotions, not with your head.
Yeah. And so, and I read his book, and I read this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so true. When you think about electrical safety, this would be an awesome, I think I'd love to convince him to do a class, a seminar, educate him on 70E and safe work practices, take him out to a few job sites to watch how work is getting done, and then have him put his brain on to say, all right, how do you become unshakable on a job site and make sure that we follow the rules and you don't bend because of X, Y, and Z, whatever it is, right?
You could take them out there like that, and then you guys do it together.
Oh, yeah.
To bounce off each other type of thing, because you're going to come up with questions that he can address and demonstrate how to do that. And you can ask people, I've been trying to practice, okay, is that what you think, or is that what you believe?
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah. Is that what you think, or is that what do you know that for a fact, or are you making
that how you
leap?
feel? Is that how you feel, or is that what you believe?
Very good point.
Interesting paper too. Actually, paper.
Yeah. Well, you know what we should do, Leon? We should get that paper and maybe do a session on that on your paper.
What we need
on IAEI Live, you guys? Yeah, absolutely.
But we need to get the brains. Vince, right? Vince, his name is? Vince?
Yeah, well, but
is this true, guys, that a lot of the stuff that we do is to get the technical information out, but wouldn't you agree that a lot of the stuff we do is attitude adjustment? People's attitude towards safety?
Yeah, it's a culture change.
Yeah.
It's a culture change. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And that's a very good point. That's a good point. I gotta think about that and explore that a little bit more, because that how does emotional intelligence feather into a culture change.
Mhm.
Because you know what, you know how I would feather that in? I would say if like say I grew up in an environment where things were just done unsafe, and when I wanted to do things safer, um, I was not popular, right?
Mhm.
So if you grew up in that environment, at some point you'd have to realize, you'd have to have some self-awareness to say, no, I'm going to speak up, and I'm going to stand my ground because I feel this is right,
Mhm.
unless they can prove to me that I'm not right, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you know, maybe there's a discussion of risk, likelihood, and severity, because you may have a person who says, you know, I will not fly in an airplane, and be adamant that I can't believe you're going to force me to fly in an airplane. But
Mhm.
it could be that it's a discussion of, okay, yes, it could be severe if we crash, but the likelihood of that is low. And then talk about statistics, and that the fact that you can get into a car, and the cars, you have a higher likelihood of crashing in a car than you have in an airplane.
Well,
Maybe.
that's kind of changing a little bit, isn't it?
I don't know.
Wheels
Not
falling
yet.
off
Don't say
planes
that,
and other
because
things.
Let's not
yeah.
talk about. We're on a lot of flights. There's Tom and I.
I'm
I don't
sorry,
think
I
of
shouldn't have thrown that in here.
yeah. Your culture point. I remember this has been a couple of years now, but I remember in the paper that I referred to with Mike Doty, we talked about culture and one example. You know, when you have reporting culture, like some, let me say, company A and company B. If company penalizes their employees and people to the point that no one wants to report because they get reprimanded really badly, or the culture just doesn't encourage it. Whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of incidents can go under the radar without being caught. So you need to strike a balance. Of course, you can't just have everyone just screwing up, making mistakes without getting making them accountable to their acts, right? At the same time,
Right.
you want to strike this balance so that if something happens, people report it and know that they know that they're safe, so that we learn from it. So it's more like not just
Yeah.
culture. So it's a learning culture that we made this mistake. Okay, let's just take a step back and figure out what happened there, and more importantly, figure out a way to prevent this from happening in the future. Because if it happened once, most likely it will happen again, right? So the whole idea is let's just understand what happened and work on preventing it from happening next time.
And to
Yeah.
do it in such a manner that they're motivated. They're motivated to do that, because just having a rule, so what? If you wonder why the rule is there, that's going to motivate you more than the rule itself, because of the reason why you're doing it. And being able to respond to a situation rather than react. How do I think my way through this? If I know this about myself and I accept that about myself, then how do I train myself to respond, not react? And
Hmm.
what wasn't there? You had something, Tom. You talked about leading and lagging indicators for safety. That lagging indicators is like, near misses. Leading
Oh, yeah.
indicators, that would play into that a little bit, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know, I think it's an education to understand the hazards. It's a discussion of likelihood and severity,
Mhm.
and it's a discussion of how do I reduce, how do I manage my risk through likelihood and severity, and what are those steps that I would take, and um, then you have to then we as individuals have to make the right decisions, and
You
that's
know,
where I think the emotional intelligence comes into play, is to say, look, can you admit that what I've been doing for the last 10 years is wrong, and I really should be doing this? That's
I
the
think
challenge.
for management too, like they just have to be like empathize with the frontline workers. And if you're in the office, obviously you're not exposed to the hazard, and sometimes you implement changes that maybe will make the life of the worker harder. But and unfortunately, a lot sometimes I should say all the time, but they tell the worker or the person what to do, but they never tell them the why. And to me, it's very important to understand the why, because if you tell it back to Robert's point on motivation, if
Mhm.
I'm told we're doing this because of this and this and this, and not just because I said so, kind of thing. It would help, and you'd get people, because people, I believe that, it doesn't matter how smart I am on a piece of paper, the person doing it in the field, they're smarter, they have more access to the information, so you can come up with whatever, or permits or work plan, whatever, and someone in the field will be able, if they're not convinced, they were just shortcuts. They would be able to figure out shortcuts, and they would just bypass those administrative control that they would think they're important to, I guess, make their life harder, or just they don't make sense to them. But if those controls or those, I guess, procedures are explained to the worker or to the person performing the job, I think they will probably be more likely to follow, because now they understand why they're done, and B, the feedback you get from them would probably help you to improve the process that you're implementing, because you just don't want to be working in a silo in a vacuum without knowing what these guys are doing and getting feedback from them.
Yeah.
You remember that saying, "You don't know what you don't know."
Oh,
when
yeah.
When I first heard that, I thought that was the dumbest thing that I'd ever heard, and yet it's true. There's things that we don't know, and
Absolutely.
education is critical to fill that gap in, so we can make decisions on things we do know.
Yep. Absolutely right. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. That's like when I said about when people are looking at a new piece of equipment, like whether it be a switchboard or switch gear or something like that, any type of electrical equipment, and you go, I know what the hazards are, because I know anything above 50 volts is a hazard. I know all of these things. But when you look at, if you don't know that piece of equipment, then you don't know how to recognize what is above 50 volts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we got David Engelhart dialing in. There's David.
Hey, David.
Greetings, exalted one.
I sent you an email. I think it was on your work email. I forgot to just text it. Sorry about that, bud.
Yeah, you should have sent it to my my Comcast, my Comcast email.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to I gotta send this to my email.
Okay.
And then I'm going to join you from
the computer.
My computer, yeah.
You're on your phone right now, aren't you, David?
Yeah,
I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
I'm on my phone right now. Yeah. So
you're long and narrow.
Yeah.
It makes your hips look big.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was wondering. Yeah. Maybe I should have texted you to say, hey, if you want me to join, send to my Comcast. So
yeah, I don't know if I have your Comcast. When I do the Engelhart thing, I may have it, but I'm not sure.
Did
you send it?
I subscribed to both of them.
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
I did see that. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'll be back.
All righty.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, but
when Nihad was talking, and you too, Tom, to your point, on a piece of equipment, you might know the equipment, but you might not know all the issues that may be involved, because somebody might say, you'll say something, well, I didn't even know that was going to be an issue.
That's exactly right. And then, or you open something up, and like I've done this before, where it wasn't electrical in nature, but I've opened like say something on an engine, and you touch I touch a pipe, and I go, and it's hot, and I almost burn myself, and you go, why is that hot? That shouldn't be hot. And then you start looking, you go, oh, this engine's a little different than the other one.
Yeah.
That's this pipe, so
that's the electronic muffler belt that you touched.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the discombobulator. There it is.
There he is.
I'm back.
Well, good to see you, David. Good to see you.
And then I got my vintage electrician shirt on.
Vintage electrician. Look at that.
It's backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. What can I say? Okay, so it
Turn
says
around so we can read it from the other side.
knows more than he says and notices more than you realize.
There you go. There you go.
I love it. And it's a noun.
Perfect.
And it's a noun. I love it. I love it.
I thought I'd entertain y'all with that one.
That was good. I talked to Derek Vixtel this morning, and his wife's going to try to get those shirts made up with the shark on it, the ShockWeek shirts.
Cool.
I completely forgot about getting those done, but yeah, she's a sport. So,
are you really going to go as far as showing the back of the shark on the back of the shirt type of thing?
I don't think she's going to do that. But she's getting a sample shirt sent, so. They asked me my size. I'm like, okay, I gotta get that. I said, make sure it's big so I can get it over another shirt, so I don't know what kind of, if it's gonna be a white T-shirt or what. So,
Tom, you're like the rest of us. We got to keep our shirts on so the grandkids don't get confused.
Oh boy.
Oh, you gotta love it. He said, David, he made an interesting statement today. He said, do you know why baby ants are so confused sometimes? Because their uncles are ants.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Their uncles are ants. And you know how to
I got that.
And do you know how to tell a male ant from a female ant?
No.
A girl ant
from a boy ant.
A girl ant from a boy ant, yes.
I can't wait to hear.
You throw them in the water, and the girl ants will sink to the bottom, and the boy ants will float.
So if it's a girl ant, it's a boy ant.
I got that.
Oh my gosh! Well, those two made my wife laugh, but the third one didn't. So I'm not even going to say it. I don't even remember it.
What was the third one?
I don't know, but it wasn't as good as the first two.
Oh.
Those dad jokes, what are you going to do? So what do you think of the 210.8 discussion, David?
The 210.8 discussion. Well, let me pull it up here. And there was a couple of things there. Oh, well, first of all, I'm pretty sure that you're familiar with it. My PI for in 210.8F to increase from 50 to 60 amps.
Oh, yes, and we did that.
Okay, so you approved that.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's look.
It was interesting. We had a good discussion. It was like, why 50 to 60? What's the
and then there's other areas in 210.8 that says 60 amps. So I couldn't understand why 60 wasn't there also. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So some history behind this. So because 210.8F was based on a comment that public comment that I presented or submitted back in the 2020 cycle, based on the incident of the boy that was shot in Chicago or whatever. And initially, there was no current in the proposal. And the current was added at the meeting. And I still didn't understand why 50 was added. But I guess after 4 or 5 hours of fighting, you get to a point that just let's get it going. If this is the only hurdle to get it in, although I'm not as convinced, just let's get it in and just get it to ballot. And it passed now. So
yeah,
when I saw your comment, I was like, okay, so why do we even need current? We know that the shock, we're talking about, we talk about the voltage. And back in, I guess, 210.8 dwelling units, we got rid of the 15, 20 amp because it just didn't really add anything other than, but why would you just say, you talk about the voltage level and then 10, 15 and 20 amp, I think it was. So it's like, my thing was, why can't we just get away without current, like just let it there, and whatever the current is, whether 50, 60, maybe in the future it could be 100, I don't know, whatever the current is, it's just not really adding much. So I was kind of coming from the other angle, but no one really wanted to to vote for me. I think Tom will remember. I voted against myself. I think because no one wanted to
Oh,
vote against myself. Then.
But
I-
the thing about 210.8A is that it's restricted to receptacles only.
Yep.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my other point was 210.8D. I'm wondering why garbage disposals are not included in that hardwired or receptacle.
Yeah.
Oh.
It makes absolutely no sense to me. It's a
No,
thing.
you're right. You're right.
So
David, we were talking.
I dropped the ball on submitting that PI. But most garbage disposals are cord plug, and we're making them GFI protected receptacle anyways.
Yeah.
So I guess David, when you
I remember having that discussion at the panel because I remember having the discussion that I think somebody asked, has anybody ever seen a hardwired garbage disposal? And you have?
I have.
Yep.
Really?
I have.
And dishwashers.
And the switch is the switch
disconnect.
right there is the disconnect.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Interesting. That would definitely. I'm gonna have to take a look at the public inputs and see if anybody had put anything in like that.
Yeah.
I think it's plug connected, and the receptacle will probably be within 6 feet of the sink, right? So this should be covered.
No, but he's
well, that once again, that's the receptacle part, but
right.
210.8D includes outlets, correct? Okay, so that's just like the dishwasher.
Yeah. Well, then what about if you hardwire something to get around that GFCI requirement? The whole idea behind the GFCI requirement was GFCI protection, and by hardwiring something, you're just defeating your whole purpose for doing anything.
Well, that's why we require it for the outlets and not just the receptacle outlets in certain areas.
So then that disposal, that connection point is the outlet.
Yeah.
That's the point on the wiring system.
Right.
Yep.
Sorry, Tom, your camera turned black. You lost your feed. I don't know if you're aware or not.
Oh, I wasn't aware. No.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Because I know you were doing something. I think you were going to check something.
Yeah. Tom, you're trying to pull something up.
I'm back. I'm back.
Black
huh?
screen.
You're still a black screen.
Black as the ace of spades.
Wow, that's I can see myself on the feed. Hold on.
Yeah, because when you
look at your computer screen, not the mirror.
Yeah, I remember you said you were checking. I thought you disconnected your camera, but I guess it's.
Yeah, that's really weird. I can see me, but no one else can.
No.
Huh. Let me go to video settings.
You know, he looks just like Jerry O'Connor, just identical. You guys look like twins.
Yeah, there you
are.
There he is.
There he is.
There he is.
There we go. Am I back?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I did take a look at the. I'm just trying to let me move some stuff around here. I'm gonna leave. Oh, I shouldn't have left. I have this public input. But you're gonna love this, David. Hold on. Let's see if I can do this without share screen. And there it is.
Perfect.
Look at this. This is
disposals. There it is.
Address.
There it is.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So now let me but we rejected it.
Huh.
Yeah, we rejected that.
passed ballot or not? I can't remember if it passed ballot or not. Do you remember,
No,
Tom?
it was rejected. Hold on. I'm going to
Check the ballot.
I'm going to call up TerraView. NFPA.org.
Is that D or
But this is not you. This is not
because it should be D?
This is D.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's D. Okay.
It's D.
Mhm.
Yep.
But the submitter name is not David Engelhardt, right? I don't see. I mean,
No, it's not David.
No.
Hold on. Let's take a look. Report on public input. So this is public input number 2549. 2549. And we'll see what it was reviewed. Oh, look at this. Hold on to your. Are you sitting down for this one? Because you're gonna just fall out of your chairs. All right, here we go.
Caden.
Many cord and plug connected garbage disposals are GFCI protected by existing language found in 210.8. Therefore, the proposed change would only impact hardwired garbage disposals. Insufficient substantiation was provided to include hardwired garbage disposals in the list. Appliances are hardwired. The only appliance that I see as electrician inspector is not on this as garbage. I do not have any tests or substantiation for the need. Oh, man. That's not good.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
yeah. It's like
Wow.
the substantiation that's like, yeah, I don't have substantiation.
The thing is attached to the sink, for God's sake.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta settle down. All right.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing. Here's the good news is that it won't be new information for the next draft of the code. So public comments, if we can just, all we really, in my opinion, all you have to do is say, look, you have it required for cord and plug connected. The fact that I hardwired it didn't remove the hazard, period.
I was just going to say, David Engelhardt, you have a chance to comment on this and submit real substantiation, not that you don't have substantiation for it.
Yeah, you could.
Gotcha.
It's not new.
True that. Thank you, Nihad. I appreciate that input. Yep.
Oh, man. You
Look
gotta
forward
love
to
it.
it.
And I wonder if there was any others. Let me do another search. There were 6. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
What the comment stage starts? Is it next month? June? Or July? I can't remember.
Public comments are due by August.
They do August, but when does it start? Is it July or I can't remember.
Yeah, it'll be July. So I'll tell you in a second.
I have
the first draft will be posted July 10th, 2024. So it'll be after July 10th, and then public comment closing date is August 28th. So
this is late because I if I recall, we always had the public comment deadline or closing date in July, right? This will be very tight because we're meeting in mid-October. So we have to get everything done before mid-October. Task group work and everything.
Yeah.
So if it's August 28th, I would say give the NFPA staff at least a week, maybe 2 weeks to get the reports ready. So we won't be able to start task group work until mid-September if we're lucky. Maybe even late September.
Yeah.
This works. It'll be like 2 weeks away.
Yeah, but here's the thing with Code Panel 2, that we're so perfect on Panel 2, we rarely get any comments.
And it's never gets controversial.
Really? Until now.
People don't fight over HCI. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's nothing.
Nothing to argue about, right?
Yeah, what was that in that unshakable book you were talking about? The arrogant thing?
David and Robert, I don't know if you guys know, but Tom chairs task group 1, which is GFCIs. I chair task group number 2, AFCIs. So both Tom and I get the easiest jobs in the code. It's just so simple, no controversial, nothing. It's just straightforward. Probably need a week to get it done. We don't even, I don't know.
You gotta love it.
I'm looking at the comments that I posted on the 210-8 deep dive here,
Oh yeah.
and I'm refreshing my memory also about the AC standard for the AC
Air conditioners.
the GFI protection for AC, the exemption for AC's GFI protection in 210-8F. Yes. I think the allowance for them to use the equipment ground is absurd.
Yeah.
Just like when the switches. Remember when switches in 404 changed?
Yep.
That required a neutral. So
That's right.
I think the standard needs to say that you're to provide a neutral conductor to the AC unit, and you're done with it.
How many times Tom and I had the same conversation? I was very tempted to submit a public comment. Unfortunately, I didn't, but I was thinking we need, I think this would solve the problem. If they use 4-wire circuits instead of 3-wire circuits like the switches, we shouldn't have a problem.
Well, then you have like what the state of Nebraska did and exempt that part when they adopted the code. They just exempted the air conditioners.
Yeah, which is, I mean,
Craziness.
Yeah, so they knew it was happening. They knew it was. They knew the GSCI wasn't going to work. So I don't. Well, I actually took a TIA in the 23 to get it fixed or whatnot. So yeah, right. That's what it was.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It was a TIA. But that's a frustrating part because, well, so one of the things that we did in the 2026 we're trying to say, look, do we have to modify what we're doing now, David, is they're modifying the standard for 943 to ignore those higher frequencies, and possibly the code to permit like a special purpose GFCI, which trips instead of at 4 to 6 up to 15 to 20.
Ooh.
And on these appliances, because they're not implementing changes in the designs. There are some HVAC equipment that works. There's a lot of HVAC equipment that works perfectly fine. There's just a few bad actors. And unfortunately, they're probably, and you know how this is, especially in the residential world, it's the least expensive solutions that get used the most.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the ones that probably are designed differently. I don't know, but there has to be a difference in design, because if I have one model and it works fine and another model and it doesn't, what's the difference between the two?
Yeah,
About $100.
Yeah, there could be some filtering that they do, but Tom, we talked about this when we were in Charleston. The problem is allowing special purpose GFCIs is not going to solve the whole problem. It will maybe solve some, but it's just not going to be solving the whole problem. And I see Alan. I'm not sure if this is Alan, our friend from Gamble.
Alan Bernstein. I just call him Alan.
I think, Alan, our friend from Procter & Gamble. Hi, Alan. Alan is a very, very smart guy. I have to say, every time Tom and we met at PCIC, it was last year and the year before, right? The last 2 years. And Procter & Gamble, right? Yeah. So Alan just has all the stories. You should get Alan on one of your shows, Tom.
Alan, you know what, Alan? If you want to join us, let me know. I should have your email. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, Alan, you should. Alan has a lot of stories to share on all the power system stuff that he does. It's just like we for dinners, and I was going to sit there and listen to his stories. And there's always a lot to learn from him. Alan is a great guy. Hopefully, you can come to PCIC this year, Alan. I don't know if your Procter & Gamble is going to let you, but
if he comes to PCIC, balloons will fly.
Yeah, we want to see you in Orlando, Alan.
Yes.
You'll have to show him a video of the Western section balloon.
He says we all have stories.
Be at PCIC. Awesome. I look forward to
Yeah.
seeing you again in Orlando. And I don't know if guys, probably PCIC is not up your alley, but if you're in the area, it's a good event, IEEE event.
PCIC is going to be where this year?
Orlando in September.
Orlando, that's right. Yeah.
The week of September 14th, I think it is, or whatever. The Monday 14th. I think it's September.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be a good one.
Yeah.
So there was a couple of other comments I made in the 210.8.
Yeah.
When you guys were talking about the bathrooms in 210.8A, I made comment that even though a room that's enclosed with a let me see, a water closet, should I make it, and a shower or bathtub, couldn't that also be considered as a wet area?
Oh, so.
Mm-hmm.
And then, is it?
Yeah.
I thought. Let me open up the book here.
I'm going to open up. I have to look at your. Where did you make
wet locations?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if well, I can understand where. I don't know if you would consider a water closet as being a wet area, but definitely a shower or a bathtub.
Well, so a shower is definitely a wet location, and I know that the light, like if you put a light in the shower to shine down, that's a wet location light that you have to have in there.
Mm-hmm.
A bathtub, though, I'm not sure. If I had a light over a bathtub, what would you say? Well, David, you're the inspector here, so would you?
Well, most of them have GFCI protection on the manufacturer's instructions labeling anyway. But what about the steam from a hot bath?
I thought 410 identified certain things on that. 410. Bathtub and shower area. A luminaire installed in the bathtub or shower area shall meet all the following requirements. No parts, cord, and plug. Well, that's the spacing on it. Within the actual outside dimension, yeah, that's the limitation on. They're limited. Well, where if you, that's the location. Yeah, where it has to. Yeah. You're not allowed to put paddle fans in there.
Right.
And then of course, luminaire has got to be solid, no pendants.
What section are you looking at?
I'm in 410.10D as in David. Bathtub and shower areas.
Wow. Would you believe I opened to that page? The moment I opened the book, I'm right there. Man.
And that's where my tab is.
That's where I don't have tabs either, so I don't know, man.
And mine probably looks a little better than yours too.
Yeah, it does. It does. Man.
I was in the 20. I was in the 20 for my CMECP, and really it don't look too bad either, quite honestly.
No, man, yours looks great.
So here's a question. Where does it say that you cannot put a wall light in a bathroom area or a bathtub zone?
So it says a luminaire installed in a bathtub or shower area shall meet all the requirements. So a luminaire, when you say a light, that is a luminaire.
Right.
Yeah.
But the requirements, what are the requirements?
It says luminaires located within the actual outside dimension of the bathtub. That's outside.
Shall be marked suitable for damp location or marked suitable for
Right.
luminaires located where subject to showers. I thought
They
that
talk
was
about
in
chain
there.
hung. They talk about chain hung.
No. Chain hung.
No, you can't have a chain
that's a
hung
pendant.
one. Right. But where does it say specifically that a wall light? And here's the reason I asked this.
No, hold on. When you say a wall light, are you talking a sconce?
Wall mount.
Yeah, wall mount, wall sconce. Now here's what
Okay.
the situation was. This is way back quite a while ago. This lady wanted a wall light put in her shower so that she could put one of those outdoor plastic fixtures on there and set her soap up on it. And there was the inspector at the time let it by because there was nowhere in the code saying you can't have a wall light luminaire in a bathtub zone.
I'm going back
It blew me away.
No, I remember a diagram for that also, and I think it's in the handbook. I don't have the handbook here.
It doesn't show a wall mount fixture.
No. And none of the language in D. It just says no parts of cord-connected luminaires, chain, cable, or cord suspended luminaires, lighting track, pendants, or ceiling suspended paddle fans with luminaire light kit shall be located. It doesn't say luminaires, because I know you could put a can light there, right? I've seen can lights in there. So you can. There's no prohibition. And
put the photo. We're talking about in the wall. Not
there's no prohibition.
Wall.
There's no prohibition.
And so my question is why? If you're standing in there in a wet
Do you know
shower,
why? Do you know why? Do you know why? Because you haven't submitted the public input.
Well,
I know this was coming, Tom. I was waiting for it.
I was trying to get you to say that.
It does say that it has to be.
It does what, David?
It does say luminaires located within the actual outside dimensions of the bathtub or shower in a height 8 foot vertically from the top of the bathtub rim shall be marked suitable for damp locations or marked suitable for wet locations. So
sure, then that could be if you have a gasket on it, but they can still put a wall mount fixture according to code, and that was the craziness about the whole thing. And we had a whole housing development, high-end housing development, where everybody decided they couldn't put anything chain hung, but they could put a wall fixture in where their hot tubs were, where their bathroom showers were. There wasn't anything anybody could do about it.
And what they could do is they could get those outside sconces that you would see on the outside of the house and like put them in that area, and they're rated for outdoors and direct.
But they weren't.
water.
They weren't even that I could see in the instructions saying that it'd be ground fault protected.
Oh, so you're saying your issue is not that just the placement over there. Your issue is whether or not there's a shock hazard.
My issue is the whole thing. Shock hazard placement. I mean, the last time I saw something that dangerous was in Puerto Rico doing relief work, and to heat the water, they had an exposed element on the shower head. It was connected up to 220.
Been there, done that in Honduras.
So tell me what the difference is.
I guess so here's my thoughts. Here's my issue. And I have the same issue with putting circuit breakers and a panel board in a bathroom. We keep saying, oh, you can't put a panel board and a breaker in a bathroom. And then when I asked the question why, because we did a prohibition on it, and I asked why, and they said, well, because it's because of the damp and the wetness of it. And I said, well, if I can install it outside, and it's not a hazard, if I could put that lighting sconce outside, right next to my door, that I can touch that lighting sconce in the pouring down rain, right, and all of that weather, and it's not a hazard, then why does it all of a sudden become a hazard the moment I put it in my bathroom?
Well, hopefully
So-
you're not standing outside your house undressed and all wet.
Well,
And in
put
a
it this way:
And in a
if
tub
it's
full of water, Tom. I don't
But
know
I-
about I don't know about West Virginia, but you might get into a little challenge here in Nebraska.
I'm just
Sorry.
saying. I'm just saying. I just if it's listed for a wet location. Now, if you can find a sconce listed for a wet location, that would be something you put outside. If it's not a hazard outside, then why would it be a hazard in my
So
bathroom?
what you're
Okay,
telling me is
okay.
it doesn't say that you can't.
I
but
got
it doesn't say that you can.
I got
Okay,
something
David.
for that. I got something for that. Okay.
Please.
The pendant in the bathroom cannot be within 8 foot. I have installed a pendant over a bathtub more than 8 foot above the bathtub.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I think the reason for that is that they don't play Tarzan on with the
That you know of.
with the pendant.
And the only reason we know that is because nobody puts cameras in bathrooms.
Well, and there's no statistics for it, Tom. ESFI does not have statistics of people get hurt off pendants.
That's
It
right.
was just
Well,
the
but
wall
here's
sign that I'm talking about.
but
What
here's
about
the thing,
piece
though.
of The bulb you're standing in there, weather resistant or not. It just doesn't feel right. Sorry.
But can you buy a pendant or a ceiling fan listed for a wet location?
I got 4 of them out on my lanai.
Yeah. As long as they're about 8 feet.
Alan,
And they're about 4 years old, and the blades are plastic, and they're starting
And
to
they're
starting to wilt.
yeah.
like this.
So Alan says none of us put cameras in our bathrooms.
It's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
That we
Absolutely.
know of, Alan.
It's good to know this. When I visit your house, it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I keep going back to if I have equipment listed for the environment, then I don't understand that. It may not look good. It may not look pretty. You may say that's not what I personally want, but if it's listed for it, I have a hard time prohibiting it. So when we prohibited the installation of circuit breakers in a bathroom, when we were talking, we were debating this, and then they put the substantiation up. And the substantiation was that there's humidity in the bathroom and there's water in the bathroom. And I raised my hand and I said, you can't say that, because if I put a 3R enclosure in the bathroom, now you're telling me that's not rated for it because of humidity, but what about the outside? And what about all the water outside? So then they changed the panel statement to say it's access related. That if you're a male and the panel board is in the women's room, you can't get into the panel board. So, and now in an other than a dwelling unit, I can understand that maybe, but they have to clean those places and they have other types of technology in there that they got to check. So I don't understand. I don't quite buy that. But then in a dwelling unit, in a dwelling unit, you just say, "Get your butt out of the bathroom. I'm coming in." You know what I mean?
Yeah, you might get away with that with Bobby Joe, but you wouldn't do that here. So then let's go back to the GFCI protection at least.
Yes,
I can agree on that. On the wall mount, but the GFCI protection.
Yeah, I think if you would say if you put a listed sconce in the bathroom and in a wet location and you want GFCI protection there and you get that, then I would say you've also argued for and justified putting GFCI protection on outdoor lighting as well.
Yep. Absolutely.
They require that on for pools when the lights are so close to a pool in existing situations.
Yeah. So I mean, I sit there and I know Nihad and I and others on the code panel too scratch our head and wonder, why is it that we just don't protect all of these circuits with GFCI?
Yeah. Crawl spaces are protected.
If you look at a dwelling unit, if you just look at name a room, and you have either an AFCI or a GFCI required in that area. Except for look, it just happens when I talk about this stuff.
You're getting excited,
So I got to watch my hands. I think there's a part of me that is it's my European heritage. So if you look at any one of the rooms outside of the attic, there's no AFCI or GFCI requirements in an attic. I don't think.
I think attic lights
equipment up there.
I think attic lights. I mean, an attic light just like a crawl space light.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And then if you got a piece of equipment up there in the attic, like a air handler or something.
Oh,
well,
I've installed many of porcelain pull chains with the receptacle on it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Pulled my. Well, that's weird.
And David, because that bathroom fan's recessed up in there, now that's got a piece of equipment up there, right?
Yeah, I saw that there's an exception in that 210.8A about bath fans because there's a receptacle up there in the
Yeah,
bath.
but I'm talking about up in the attic itself.
Huh?
Not down below, because you're up there in the attic, your equipment's recessed up in the attic.
The bath fan.
Yeah. You're not talking about down below. You've got equipment now that's in the attic. And maybe because you don't service it up there. But if it was like an attic ventilator fan or something, you might be able to service that or do voltage testing.
Oh, an attic fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Duh. Okay. I got it.
Yeah.
They put air handlers up in the attics down here. They put water heaters up in the attics down here.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've seen that. Yep.
The house I'm living in was built with the air handler up in the attic, and I have since moved it down into the garage to get it out of the attic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be hot up there.
Yeah. And I did some fancy insulating around it too, so it kind of make it a little bit more efficient. Anyway,
now you'd want to keep your hot water tank up there.
Yeah, but I got two of them. Yeah.
How do you heat hot water?
I have water heaters, not hot water heaters.
Right.
Oh man. Okay. Now you know you're truly working with code people. Okay.
Yeah.
So what other comments?
It's all about what you spit out your mouth, you know.
Yeah.
And I correct many people all the time. They say I want to add an outlet. Okay, what kind of an outlet? A receptacle outlet, a lighting outlet? What kind of an outlet you adding? You know?
Yeah.
And smoke detectors.
Yeah.
Smoke detectors.
Smoke alarms.
Smoke alarms.
Smoke detectors are part of a fire alarm, are an initiation device of a fire alarm system.
Yep.
That's right.
Not smoke alarms. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's an important difference when you use the terms.
And a common understanding of what we're talking about is all too important to appropriate communication between two individuals.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
what other comments on 210.8, David?
I think that was pretty much about it. You said something about whether there's a question or something like that, and then I put a comment in there for 90.4 when it's up to the AHJ to make a decision.
Oh, you put something in 90.4?
Yeah, at time period 51:42.
Oh, okay. So wait, this was in. You know what's funny is I'm not seeing your comments. You did it on YouTube?
I saw them.
Yeah. It's in the comments.
Yep.
I made the comments after the presentation.
Mhm.
Oh, there they are. Comments.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay, so the AC standards should be required to ground the neutral. I would say we talked about that one. Okay. And at 1:30:25, I look forward to hearing my PI gets approved to increase from 50 to 60, and we should be good there. So we got that one taken care of. Disposal should be included. Yeah, we talked about that one.
Range.
90.4.
Range. Yeah. I'm
And
wondering
the range one.
if I can. I wonder if I can click on that. See what.
David, I think if you have a picture of a hardwired garbage disposal, it would help to include in the
Yeah.
differentiator. Picture. It would always help so that no one can
See,
just say,
and then the ranges. Ranges are cord and plug connected, but you also have hardwired ovens and cooktops.
Mhm.
We got that covered in 210.8D.
Okay.
That's yep.
Okay.
I think it's a garbage disposal that needs to be added
Yeah.
as per your requirement. So yeah, if you have a picture, I think it would be picture speaks louder than words, right?
Yeah.
Just have it
Yeah.
there, and no one can question. It's like it's right there. It's not just you're
Yeah.
saying that you've seen them; it's actually there.
One of the other things that I thought you made a good comment on, or the GFCI one, was understanding the charging statement. Where is the background of all of this stuff coming from? And he took you all the way back to 90.3, but understanding that parent text to start with, that sets the stage for all the rest of it, type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great
at the very
comment.
beginning. So.
Yep. All right. I'm replying to some of your comments. Boy, you know what? I don't know how I was missing this tab in this thing. I see a bunch of comments in here that I haven't responded to. Man.
Yeah, of course, I made these after that presentation had already finished up.
Yeah.
So that's why they showed up down here instead of in
the chat.
Honestly, I don't know if there was any chat. Let me see. Chat replay is disabled for this premiere.
David, I think since the video were recorded, you can't have a chat. You can only have comments on a recorded video. So you have Tom would have to go back and check the comments. But chat is only allowed, I believe, when it's live, when it's a live recording, like what we're doing now.
Mhm.
And I believe once the live is over, most of the live chats are gone. Like I don't know. Sometimes I can see them while I'm watching the video. Sometimes I can't. I don't know how it works.
Nice. Boy, yeah, there's some good comments on me and there's some stuff with Brad too. Awesome. Felix Sandoval was watching. That's cool.
Yeah, that stuff was Brad that was exciting. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, Brad did a good job. And that one I used 2 cameras. So
Yeah.
you saw how I zoomed in on him. So I figured out how to do that.
Yep.
And how to edit both of those videos on top of each other. So it worked out pretty good.
I was watching on my phone, and this specific video with Brad, the audio was not as loud as the other one. Maybe I'm not sure because of 2 cameras, but I was watching on my phone. So
the audio came off of one device, which was this here. So
it was, but it wasn't as loud as the other one.
You know why? Yeah, you know why? Probably I played with the audio a lot because we were in a room that had a lot of ambient noise, and I had to filter out all that ambient, and I probably should have increased the volume a little bit more. But sometimes when I'm wearing these headphones, it just sounds so loud.
So clear, yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm watching on my phone, so I'm sure if I'd been watching on my laptop or maybe like an external speaker, things would have been better. But just using my phone speaker, it wasn't as loud as the other videos. Just the other videos are the same.
Nihad, I watched that on my phone, and it was fine, but I could have had a different, could have been different reception and things like that.
So I learned a lot during this shock, putting these videos together, there were a lot of lessons learned. If you see the first videos versus the last few videos I've done,
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot about both on the editing side and on capturing the video. Like the Megan Hayes video, I had to cut certain things out. Not Megan Hayes. It was yours, Robert.
Mm-hmm.
I recorded on my phone at 4K, and the hard drive that I was using, the solid state drive that I use, it's not fast enough to take the 4K video recording.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had these gaps where I had my audio, and I screwed up the audio when I was recording because I was recording the audio from the wrong thing, which actually saved my butt in the end. But I had these moments when my video just went out, and for most of them, you were talking and I didn't matter, so I inflated you, and it rode through my video. But there was one where I disappear, and I just left it in. I'm like, there's no fixing it. There's you and me, and I disappear, but I'm talking away, and then I come back on again, and that is exactly what happened.
Of course,
So are you kind of prepping me for the fact that most of the good stuff wound up on the cutting room floor? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I didn't cut anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank God. Thank God.
And that's yet to come.
Yeah, his is on Wednesday.
Thursday?
Is it Thursday? Is it Thursday? Yeah, you might be. Yeah, because it was. Oh, that's right. Yours is on the 30th because I put it in the middle of the Derek Vixtel discussions on 110.3. And I'll tell you what, that session was awesome. That session. I wish I would have had two cameras. Qualified person. Yeah.
Yep.
I wish I would have had two cameras with Derek, but I did that before learning. You know, again, I'm on a learning curve, but I like having the two camera angles, one with both of us, and then one just focused on whoever it is I'm interviewing. It just really makes it nicer to fade over to that person when they're talking.
Neha, do you see where a lot of this is going? There's going to be the Oscars coming next, for IAEI.
I know. I told Tom
Best
this.
director,
Eventually Tom would start a new career. He'll be like a video editor, filmographer or something. Forget about Eaton and safety. He'll make more money, Tom. Maybe move to
make
Hollywood.
more money.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have as much fun.
One
I'll
more
tell you what.
observation. One
Yeah.
more observation.
Please.
You had Dan Carnival at 2:00, which was an hour and 30 minutes, and then you had 210.8 at 3:00. So it's a good thing that we can watch this on demand so we can see what we missed.
Oh, did I do that?
Oh, they overlap?
Yeah.
They overlapped.
Yeah, I had noticed that. I thought it was just me or my phone. Thank you, David.
Yeah, I kept looking and seeing, wait a minute. So Dan's not done yet, but then it's 3:00 here, and we got John coming up with GFI. So
I screwed that one up. Let me look at my Word document and look at my notes document.
I'm looking through on the email that you sent, Tom, and you said 10 a.m. Shock hazard, 12.
You know what I did?
Yeah. You did.
So
I put experiential learning. I did from 2 to 2:30, and I meant 2 to 3:30. And then I should have done the deep dive with John McCamish from 4 to 5.
John.
Well,
John,
on the YouTube
John,
where you can hit the forward and reverse, that's how I had to watch it at the same time for that period.
John was another hour and 35 minutes too, by the way.
Yeah, it was an hour and 35 minutes. I didn't put the times. Okay, well, lessons learned right there. You know what I have to do next time is put a spreadsheet together and actually put the duration so that I know that I don't overlap.
Just so I let you know.
Thank you very much. But I wish you would have told me Sunday.
So I think if you keep
I didn't have access to the video, so
Well, you know what happened? I'll tell you what happened, David. I didn't load John's up until around midnight last night. In fact, I woke up this morning and it wasn't done uploading. And I was worried about it because when I went to bed, I had started the upload and it said it was going to take 2 hours. And I'm like, I'm going to bed. So I edited it. I got it all together. I started the upload and ran upstairs, went to bed. And I got up this morning at 6 or 5:30 or whatever. And I saw that it still hadn't finished because my computer, I think, just went to sleep and it stopped uploading. Mm-hmm. But then it finished. So I was in a hurry. And that's the other lessons learned is I need to start editing earlier than I did. I didn't edit some of these until this weekend.
I think you'll be safe if you space them out by 2 hours. I don't think any video will be more than 2 hours. So if you keep the space in them 2 hours, you should be safe.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about issue.
Yep. And then I overloaded Thursday, but now there's a couple that are on Thursday that are only 10 minutes long. So I fit them in very short. You know, I figured, well, I'll just pepper them in. And I wanted to keep all of Derek's together. So because it was such a really good discussion. He has a wealth of knowledge, and I broke it up because I figured, because even he said it, and I had the recording when I had cut it out, but he had made a statement. He goes, there's nobody who's going to watch this whole 3. We thought it was like 4 hours, but it ended up being 3.5. 3.5 hour long discussion. But it was pretty thorough. And I just broke it up into A through L, and I cover like E, F, and G all in one discussion because they're so related to each other. But yeah, that was I should not overlap on Thursday and then Friday. And I didn't get Scott Margolin. I got to call him for Tyndale for PPE. He and I need to do a video. And what I'd love to do is meet him over in Philly when he does some testing and get some video of testing, him testing the PPE. That would be really cool.
So I'm looking at your schedule here. Looks like you got quite a bit of criteria to discuss at 10 o'clock on the 30th on 110.3A. You got A through L here. And then, so you've only got an hour set up for that. And then just my observation here.
110.3.
3A. Looking at your schedule for May 30th here. And then you only got a half hour for, I guess, 110.3I on the 31st from 10 to 10:30. 10:30 you got day coming up.
It's like a 15-minute video. That's why.
Okay. Okay.
A couple of those were, so for 110.3A, it's 28 minutes and 51 seconds. So it's 28:51.
You're covered.
Yeah, 110.3A. B, where's B?
B is next.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there it is. There.
You're looking.
Yeah, 110.3B is. Where's the time? Oh, right there. 20 minutes long.
Okay.
2018.
Then you got a 2 hour allocation for Mr. Omaha.
Yes, he went along for. Now that guy, you got to watch him.
I'll be at work, by the way.
Well, that should never stop you.
Nope. No. Even though they come and hound me.
That's right.
It'll be on the background. And then, of course, on demand, in case I need to pick up on something. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I like the fact that these are all up there. It makes a world of difference. I can't see his. I don't know why it's not giving me the time. It's like giving me a circle of death. But
what I call the inedible spinning donut.
I love
There you
it.
go.
I love it.
It is so refreshing. No pun intended.
Oh, jeez. All right, guys. Well, it's getting
Yep.
late.
Yep.
And
Yep. Yep.
we'll look forward to tomorrow night. Hopefully, Vince Barlow will be on and we can chat about emotional intelligence. I tell you what, the book was like $15 on Amazon. I put the link for it in there, and we'll see. I told him, I said, I want like royalties, right? I should get royalties off of this. And I got to call Puppy Paws because when I'm drinking my Rottweiler, I should be saying, hey, I should be getting royalties. Maybe I'll be like Mike Holmes on Holmes. I'll sign them.
There you go.
The signed edition. All four of us.
The first time they get an order from Egypt, then you can go for that.
Yeah, that's right.
No,
That's right.
this way you have to
Yeah,
charge
Nihad,
more.
your mom better order some of that for him.
Love it.
Well, okay, no guarantees if you're gonna get it.
That's right.
Well,
All
yeah,
right.
but Tom is signing his copy, then they should charge for more. This will be signed by the only Thomas Dimitrovic.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. All right,
Bring your
guys.
trophy with tomorrow night.
I'm going to do the best I can with what I got.
Okay.
Well, bring your award tomorrow night so you can show them.
I'll do that. All right, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Peace
I
out.
don't
Guys,
know
have a good evening.
Okay.
a quick thing,
Later.
Tom, before we close. I know if Alan is still there, but the PCIC registration is open, so you guys need to book your rooms because the rooms are really tight, and you don't want to we don't end up in the other hotel with the
Yeah.
overflow hotel. So just FYI, yeah, it opened last week. So if Alan is still
Sounds
there,
cool. Will do. All right, guys. Good night.
Take care.
Take
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, good night, everyone.
Night night.
Night, night.
Tomorrow.
Well, we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Take care.
Thank you. I close out of here. All right, everybody. See you tomorrow.